to someone who has been a part of our lives. When that person is gone, there's a hole in our lives where she used to be. That's what many of us are feeling today. Some of you knew Lily better than others, but you're all here because she had an impact on your life, and you want to honor that. Lily was a caring, talented, unforgettable woman, and it's not easy to say goodbye to her. At this time, it's vital to remember the fond memories we all have of Lily. By holding on to these memories, we can focus on the good times we had together and help each other find comfort through this difficult time. We hope that several of you will be able to get up later and share your own memories of the time you spent with Lily. A poem, Afterglow. I'd like the memory of me to be a happy one. I'd like to leave an afterglow of smiles when life is done. I'd like to leave an echo whispering softly down the ways of happy times and laughing times and bright and sunny days. I'd like the tears of those who grieve to dry before the sun, of happy memories that I live when life is done. Anonymous. So now to recount some of these memories. I first met Lily when she was dating my father back in the 1960s. She immediately impressed me as a kind and beautiful lady. I was so happy for my father and her when they got married. She was always so sweet to me when I stayed over. Some of my favorite childhood memories with her include walking down to Scorpio's restaurant to get a plate-sized hamburger to split when she was pregnant with Tim. Cooling off in the tiny splash pool that very hot summer, and her patiently, and I mean patiently, teaching me sewing and knitting skills. I was fascinated by her many beautiful sewing and other needlework projects, her vibrantly colored fabrics in every shade of hue of thread and yarn imaginable. Over the years, I enjoyed many of her sumptuous meals. Lily could just do no wrong in the kitchen. Everything she cooked was perfectly delicious. She also had a pronounced green thumb for her very many houseplants, including the sprawling Lucille that seemed poised to take over the whole house at any moment. I will also remember her as the woman who gave me my only sibling, my brother Tim, and the woman who taught my father to love cats. Lily was a caring, nurturing mother, wife, daughter, sister, and friend. By touching our lives, she is a part of each of us. Her sweetness and essence has touched us all. In the words of D.H. Lawrence, when the ripe fruit falls, its sweetness distills and trickles away into the veins of the earth. When fulfilled people die, the essential oil of their experience enters the veins of living space and adds a glisten to the atom, to the body of the mortal chaos. For space is alive, and it stirs like a swan, whose feathers glisten, silky with the oil of distilled experience. Lillian Dion Franks was born Marie Josephine Lillian Dion on June 21st, 1938. Her parents were Lydia Deschênes and Romère Dion. She was raised with her two brothers, Gerard and Jean-Claude, and three sisters, Yvette, Claire, and Yolande, in Trois-Pistoles, Quebec, a picturesque city on the St. Lawrence River in Canada. It was there she went to elementary and high schools. In 1959, Lily earned her nursing diploma from the Crèche Saint Vincent de Paul in the city of Quebec. I recently discovered that this institution was a foundling home, overseen by the Good Shepherd Sisters, and lasted from 1901 to 1971. There, unwed mothers would give birth to their babies, who would be cared for by doctors, lay and religious nurses, social workers, and nursery attendants, while awaiting adoption. Lily moved to Los Angeles in 1961, where she began working as a loan officer for Bank of America. Over the next few years, She continued her bank career at Fidelity, Plaza, and City National Banks. She met her future husband, Bill Franks, in the mid-1960s, when they were living in the same apartment complex in West Hollywood. She was living in the aptly named Queen section, while he rented a unit in the corresponding King section at the time. They were married in a small chapel on October 7, 1967, followed by a reception at Aileen's. They continued living in Hollywood and moved to their apartment on Kingsley. Their son, Timothy James Franks, my brother, was born on September 7, 1970. In 1972, they bought their hillside home on Claremont Avenue in Los Feliz, Silver Lake. It was there that they spent the rest of their days and raised him. To say that Lily had hobbies is an understatement. Every interest of hers was a passion in which she pursued excellence through unrelenting endeavor. If she did something, she tended to do it a lot and really well. Let's begin with her accomplishments in the area of textiles. Lily was an accomplished, prolific seamstress who could sew just about anything and everything, and she most certainly did. This included items for decorating the home, clothing for herself, our dad, and Tim, not to mention several of her friends. Tim remembers bemoaning the fact that his clothes were homemade while his school friends wore the much-coveted Ocean Pacific clothes that were all the rage at the time. How did Mom respond to that? By stitching the OP logo onto Tim's shorts. Lily could also knit, crochet, and do needlepoint. Some of her needlepoints still hang in the Claremont Avenue house, including one she did representing her childhood home back in Trois-Pistoles, Quebec, and it's in a frame up there on the table. If you haven't seen it, you can take a look at it later. It's just beautiful. At any time, she was fully stocked with colorful fabrics, patterns, threads, yarns, and needles, all ready to go for constant, countless projects. Everything was meticulously made. Even a scrapbook of hers that Tim and I found, full of fabric samples, descriptions, and fiber content specifications, was meticulously cataloged. Tim remembers helping her find and file her Butterick, Simplicity, and McCall's patterns from what seemed like thousands. As Tim and I went through old family photos, we noted the many items of clothing that Lily had made herself. We also noticed that sometimes she got a little unsolicited help from one of the cats. There were also her plants, many plants, beautiful, healthy, thriving plants, indoors and out. African violets, orchids, tomatoes, flowering and succulent plants, climbing plants that appeared to be moving in stop-motion photography, like the gigantic Lucille, which predated Tim's birth. Of course, we all know that she was also quite a tennis competitor. She loved playing tennis with her friends, the Tennis Girls, at the Griffith Park Tennis Club. From the late 70s through the early 90s, she won a number of trophies in the categories of singles, doubles, and mixed doubles. She also organized at least one mixed doubles tournament. At some of these events, Tim remembers riding his bike around in eager anticipation of plunging into some Dinah's fried chicken afterwards. We used to chow down on that chicken like you wouldn't believe, he says. Speaking of food, was there anything Lily did not know how to cook? Was there anything that she could not make mouth-wateringly delicious? It could be a pheasant that Dad or Grandpa Frank shot. It could be Asian food, French food, a Thanksgiving feast. It could be her famous lemon bars and fudge, holiday favorites many of us remember. It could even be a simple breakfast of baked eggs and ramekins. As a child, I always hated eggs for breakfast until I tasted those. Another breakfast favorite Tim remembers gobbling by the plateful was her silver dollar pancake recipe made using an active sourdough culture. No matter what it was, Her food was always perfectly seasoned and well executed. Lily was an avid reader of nonfiction. She also donated her time at the Braille Institute of Vermont, reading newspaper stories aloud. She was a mail delivery tester for several years, which meant that she would receive items in the mail and send them back so that the post office could track and determine how long delivery of various items would take. Lily was a proud and loving wife and mother, and always supportive of Tim's endeavors. She drove him all over to his private trumpet lessons and rehearsals and performances with the Glendale Symphony Youth Orchestra. Later on, she also attended his concerts with the irrelevant rituals at nightclubs, such as the Roxy, Anti-Club, and other venues all over LA. In the early 1980s, she became a bookkeeper and co-partner in Mimi's restaurant, Shea Lane in Beverly Hills, where she worked for several years. From 1995 to 2000, she continued bookkeeping at the Great Greek restaurant. After retiring, Lily and Bill traveled a lot in the United States, Canada, in and around Panama, and many other places. It was early in the 2000s that Lily was diagnosed with the Parkinson's disease, which, despite all her brave efforts to educate herself and keep herself as fit and agile as possible, would eventually take away her ability to do so many of the things that she loved. She fought diligently and persistently, but as time wore on, she was unable to engage in tennis, sewing, knitting, cooking, driving, even reading. For a person so used to being so very engaged and busy at all times, it was devastating. She also sustained the loss of her husband, our father, just 3 years ago, after his sudden diagnosis.
She would have to put up with me and Tim every afternoon playing on that computer. Or it was us and Patrick, who moved down to San Diego, Patrick Torres, and a couple other guys, taking over her living room and interrupting her sewing so that we could play Dungeons and Dragons. Or do something else that she always sort of let us be the kids and be in charge of what we were doing, even if it meant she had to sort of move what she was doing and change what she was doing. And she was just always that way. She was just always ready to just be there for whatever Tim needed. And sometimes that was also being there for what I needed.
Obviously, you guys can figure out I'm his mother. And I've known Lily since they moved on to Claremont, which was about the time both these boys were 2 years old. I was her first tennis partner. My husband and I were their first tennis double partners. And the boys pretty much grew up together because we took them to the park when we went to play tennis. There was nothing else to do with them. She was my best friend. I don't know what else to say except I miss her terribly. There'll be nobody else like her ever, ever, ever again. She was good at everything she did, and she was an example to everyone else that lived there. And I will miss her always, Tim.
I met Lily through Tim. Tim was 7 years old and he ran me down in River Park with his bicycle. And Lily came running out and we started talking, and she saw that I had a tennis racket bag on me, and from then on, Lily and Bill and Louise and I used to play tennis, and then we met Cynthia and Maria, and we used to play every Thursday, come rain or come shine. And then later on, Lily and I worked together in bookkeeping for Shay Mullings and Shay Louise. And I don't know her as well as all of the rest of you, but my contact with Lily was always that she was a good soul.
Yes.
Good soul. And all of you will miss her much more than me because I didn't have the contact. But every time I go past Claremont, because we live close by, so I'll end up missing her.
The lemon bar that she used to make at Christmas.
You're making me hungry.
And what was it, the other one that you like so much? You know?
Reese's Pieces.
Yes. Great seamstress. She made me all my dresses when I was pregnant. Because I didn't want to have her from thing. I wanted to make me my dresses. Very good family, very close family. Her parents were wonderful people. We went one time we were in Quebec and at school. We used to hitchhike to go on our day off, and we hitchhiked to our parents, which was about an hour and a half, 2 hours drive. But at night, parents, they would make a big feast for us, and then we had to go back like 7:30, 8 o'clock. And our father would take us on the road where it was a lot of traffic. Well, that one night we were hitchhiking and nothing happened. Nobody would pick us up. Well, these were the good days when we were in the countryside, so it was safe. So our father and our mother said, "Come on, girls, up in, we're going to drive you to Quebec." So they did the round trip just to bring us, and they walked us into the school. And mind you, we were 18 and 19, but we were with the nuns, so they had to walk us in the school and say, "Well, they're late because the blah, blah, blah," and we did the story. So we couldn't get, yeah, our parents were wonderful.
Where I work, and I have instant friends just like that. It's like I knew her all my life, and she knew me all my life. It's just, I don't know, just something like that. And she was in there talking to herself in her office, saying, "Where's the rubber bands? Where's it? I don't know where anything is in here. I'm going insane." And I overheard her in my office. I came out and I showed her where everything was, and she just put her arms around me and hugged me, and she said, "Bless you." She said, "You're the sweetest person I've ever seen to take the time to show this old lady how to do things," or something like that. And I said, "Who wouldn't?" I said, "Something that anybody, that had halfway decent heart would do." And she said, she told me years later, I never forgot even that, because I felt so out of place. It was my first day there. The boss was in the other room. I didn't know what to do. Nobody gave me any directions. And she said, "Just you helping me." She said, that's all I needed that day. We became close friends, and Bill would come down and pick me up out of the apartment and bring me up when USC had a bowl game to play. And then I thought I was going to go help Lily cook or be in the kitchen with her. And instead, Bill and I'd be down and did watching the USC bowl game, and Mom would be up there cooking. And I felt guilty, and I'd go up there and I'd go, "Let me help you, Molly. I didn't come here to reload. I came here to help you or to be with you while you're cooking." And she said, "No. I've got some surprises for you. Go in a few minutes, and I'm just supposed to sit down, and I'll bring them down." And she always had some extra little things that she made so we could munch on it during the day. And it was so strange. About 3 months ago, she gave me this watch, and I love this watch. And I've never been able to find another one like it. And I had trouble, with it off and on. And about 3 months ago, it stopped working. And I took it to 3 different watch shops, and I couldn't get it in total to be able to fix it. And I was just heartbroken. Something just felt wrong in my heart. And I've been trying to get her on the phone, for those 3 months. I've been trying to get hold of her, and I couldn't answer. And I was getting really worried, and I asked some of my friends that knew her, and they hadn't heard about her either until all of a sudden I found out. And I got my watch fixed the very day that I found out about her. It was some huge job down on her work, and they called me for me to fix it. And so I got it back the same day, and I thought, I just said something, but every time I look at my watch, I think of, I always did anyway, but now I really think of her. And this is not my time to love this. And I've never been anybody like her. in my life.
That's what I do anyway.
So tell me how much you love Tim there, huh?
Oh,
Tim?
most of the time I love her.
Well, I tickle her.
And Tim? How much do you love your mom there, huh?
Well, I love her 100 million fucking times.
You
Over.
do?
Of course.
See, he even had to throw profanity in there.
Yeah, I did. I threw profanity in.
That's how much you love
Because
him.
it's very fitting.
Yeah.
Just teasing.
No, he's a lover. What would I do without him? He's all I've got now.
Yeah.
You got me too.
Me and you too?
Yeah, you got me too.
My second son. That's right, I can't remember. I can't forget my second son.
That's
There we
right.
go.